Welcome to the Artificial Fluency Podcast. Ever get that feeling there's more to unlock? A way to understand things better, maybe communicate more effectively?
Yeah, like you're just on the edge of figuring something important out.
Exactly. Well, today on the deep dive, we're going to try and crack that code a bit. We've got a really interesting mix for you.
Right, we're looking at a conversation between Joe Rogan and Tom Segura, and also insights from communication expert Vin Zhang.
It's quite a collision of perspectives, isn't it?
It really is. And what's fascinating is how they kind of touch on similar themes, ambitions, our bodies, the power of voice. It's all in there.
Totally. So think of this as like your shortcut. We're digging through this stuff to pull out the surprising bits, the actionable things you can actually use.
That's the mission. And yeah, the sources are pretty different. You've got that like free-flowing Rogan chat.
Yeah, spontaneous, funny.
And then the really focused practical advice from Xingyang. It gives us, a really rounded picture, I think.
Agreed. So let's dive in. First up, Tom Segura's journey. He originally went to LA wanting to make movies, right?
Yeah, that was the dream. Stand-up wasn't even like on the map for him initially.
Which is interesting because it shows how our passions can, shift.
Totally. His plan was film, maybe Groundlings, SNL, but stand-up just kind of took over. It wasn't about the money at first either.
No, he just loved doing it. It makes you think about your own life, right?
Yeah.
Those times you took a turn that just felt right.
Exactly. And then much later, he actually did make a film. He described it as like going to film school, but with total freedom.
Kind of full circle, huh? Revisiting that old dream, but on his terms.
Precisely. But here's the twist. Now he's not so keen on acting anymore.
Right. He mentioned the time commitment, wanting more variety. It shows that even when you reach a goal, your priorities can change,
Yeah. What excites you at one point might feel different later. It's a good reminder to check in with yourself. Are you still excited or just following an old plan?
Speaking of changing priorities, that story about his 6-year-old son quitting jiu-jitsu. Hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Dude, my schedule is crazy. I have a full plate.
From a 6-year-old. Kindergarten, Spanish, drums, no time for grappling.
It's funny because it's true, right? We all feel overscheduled sometimes.
And Segura himself, he juggles a lot. Archery, jiu-jitsu when his back's okay, shooting, pool, fitness, stand-up.
He admits he gets obsessive, so he has to pick his spots.
It's smart knowing yourself like that. Avoiding stuff like golf or video games because they might just take over.
Yeah, although he did get back into video games a bit, didn't he?
He did, but cautiously. So now he's busier. He can just play for short bursts, not get sucked in for hours. He learned to manage it.
It suggests some self-awareness there, managing those obsessive tendencies.
Okay, now they get into some pretty wild stuff about the body, like creatine may be helping with sleep deprivation.
Yeah, he mentioned hearing about 20 grams of creatine potentially diminishing the effects. Now, I'd be cautious with that one.
Right, seems unlikely a supplement could totally fix major sleep loss. Sleep's complex.
Exactly. Creatine's great for muscle, maybe some cognitive stuff, but negating sleep deprivation? Probably not. Still, it shows he's thinking about optimizing things.
Yeah, like his sleep protocol with peptides and the Oura ring.
Yeah.
He's really trying to dial it in.
Definitely. And his point about even moderate drinking messing with sleep, that totally lines up with the science.
Unlike his buddy Bert Kreischer, apparently.
Yeah, the Bert stories are something else. Perfect blood work despite being Bert.
And winning that beer stein holding contest against NFL players. It's just, some people are built different, I guess.
It's a funny reminder of the sheer variety in human physiology, though maybe take the perfect blood work with a grain of salt,
Oh, for sure. Then there's Jelly Roll's journey. Incredible. Down 200 pounds, aiming for another 100.
Amazing dedication. And he said getting rid of his smartphone was a big part of it.
Yeah. Cutting out distractions to focus. That's powerful. It shows how much those little devices can pull us away.
It really does. Intentional choice is making a huge difference.
And him finishing that 5K in the stadium, those crazy inclines they didn't expect. Just pure determination.
Seriously impressive considering where he started. Shows what sustained effort can do.
Okay, shifting slightly. Segura's obsession with grip strength. Aiming for a 190. It's kind of random, but funny.
Yeah, focusing on a really specific metric like that, it's a way to track progress, maybe satisfy that obsessive side in a controlled way.
Could be. And listing everyone's grip scores.
Yeah.
David Lucas, Jamar Neighbors, UFC guys.
But then he talks about rock climbers. That image of the guy doing a one-finger pull-up.
With calves growing off his forearm bone.
Yeah.
Just wow. Different kind of strength entirely,
Exactly. It's not just lifting heavy, it's control, specialized muscle.
which leads him to talk about calisthenics. He does a lot, right? Push-ups, squats, chin-ups.
Yeah, 100 push-ups, 100 squats, dips, L pull-ups, leg raises. It's a serious commitment to bodyweight training. Builds great functional strength.
And he uses a weight vest, too, which makes a big difference, apparently.
Oh yeah, simple way to add resistance, keep progressing with bodyweight stuff.
And thinking back to Jelly Roll, that analogy of him basically carrying hundreds of extra pounds all the time really paints a picture of the strain.
It's a powerful visual, isn't it? Makes you appreciate the load the body carries and then potential relief with weight loss.
Segura also touched on losing weight the right way, keeping muscle, avoiding injuries from losing too fast.
Crucial point. Sustainable loss is gradual, focused on health, not just dropping numbers quickly, which can backfire.
And he talked about getting back on track himself after sliding a bit. Consistency over perfection, basically.
Always the key, isn't it? Recognizing you slipped and just getting back to good habits. Much better than intense bursts followed by nothing.
Okay, so the conversation then broadens out to health in general, food, society. They mention a guest, maybe Callie Means.
Right, and someone highlighting concerns about U.S. health stats compared to other places like Japan.
Yeah, Japan's amazing food, longevity, versus the U.S. having some of the, quote, worst health stats in the Western world. Stark contrast.
Makes you wonder about the bigger picture, beyond just individual choices, systemic stuff.
And they float that idea that maybe corporations kind of profit from keeping people unhealthy, selling cheap, addictive food.
Yeah, the argument about enriched flour, preservatives, glyphosate, the herbicide concern, it's a critical look at the food industry's potential conflicts of interest.
Grow your own food comes up too, how much better it tastes.
Makes sense. Fresher, no preservatives, a real connection to what you're eating.
They also hit on sedentary lifestyles, lack of nutrition knowledge, and how little nutrition training doctors get.
Yeah, those are huge factors in metabolic health. And the gap in medical training regarding preventative nutrition is, well, it's concerning.
And it's not just nutrition they feel is missing in schools, right? Finance too.
Right. Questioning priorities. Are schools teaching the practical stuff needed for adult life? Financial literacy is so important.
Totally. Which leads to the credit card companies targeting students and the whole student loan debt crisis. That unforgivable debt thing is scary.
It really is. Predatory marketing, and then this massive debt burden potentially following you forever, even impacting Social Security. It's rough.
And with so much education available online now, they question if expensive degrees are always worth it, especially if they don't lead anywhere specific.
Yeah, the value proposition of traditional college is definitely being reevaluated. Online options offer flexibility, sometimes lower cost.
Plus, the mental toll of that debt on young professionals, it's a huge stressor.
Absolutely. Impacts well-being, life choices. It's a heavy weight.
And the pressure to just go to college, even if it's not the right fit, combined with, young brains still developing, especially males, they noted.
Right. Decision-making isn't fully formed, makes young people vulnerable to societal pressure and potentially poor long-term financial choices regarding education.
Then the tone gets a bit darker. This idea that maybe a lack of hope, like not believing in the American dream anymore, leads people to just give up, stop caring about appearances.
It's a pessimistic take, linking disillusionment to self-care. An interesting, if maybe bleak, connection to consider.
And even the idea that governments might want people to be apathetic to make them easier to control.
Yeah, those kinds of theories about power dynamics pop up, especially when people feel uncertain. Always good to approach with critical thinking, though.
Definitely. Concerns about AI, automation, UBI, maybe leading to more control, the bigger gap between rich and poor. These are common anxieties now.
For sure. The speed of technological change raises huge questions about the future of work, society, economic models. Lots to unpack there.
They also talked about manipulating narratives online. Bot farms, paid protests, stuff that's legal but feels ethically murky.
Yeah, the ability to artificially inflate voices or fake grassroots movements. It seriously messes with public discourse, makes it hard to know what's real.
And that Equinox lawsuit story. Woman wins $11 million after being late 47 times. Yes. Wild. Makes you question jury decisions sometimes.
It definitely highlights the complexities and how public perception of big corporations can play a role in legal outcomes.
Which ties into taking stuff from hotels or work. That attitude of, oh, they can afford it. Different ethics for corporations versus individuals.
It's a common psychological thing, right? Dehumanizing the large entity makes certain actions feel less wrong to some people, raises questions about responsibility.
Okay, now switching gears again. Imitation. Fake luxury watches, fake Apple products, even fake Apple stores that fooled employees.
The sophistication of counterfeiting is pretty mind-blowing these days. Entire fake operations shows the scale of it.
Segura wasn't impressed by copying luxury stuff. But then they made a good point. Copying a watch is one thing, copying a Porsche 911 Turbo S, totally different league.
Huge difference in complexity engineering materials. You might fake the look, but faking the performance and reliability of something that complex, much, much harder.
That led them to the music industry. Historically, record deals were often predatory, right? Even for huge stars.
Oh yeah, classic story. Artists selling millions but seeing very little money themselves because of the contracts and creative accounting.
And even now, with streaming changing everything, artists still face challenges making a living. It's a tough business.
The digital age shook things up, but fair compensation is still a major issue for many musicians in the streaming economy.
They mentioned Marvin Gaye potentially ending up broke despite being a superstar. A cautionary tale about bad contracts and management.
Yeah, whether every detail is exact or not, it highlights how vulnerable artists could be, needing good advice and fair deals.
And labels making artists pay for their own videos without them fully realizing it. Sneaky.
It's just the power imbalance, especially for newer artists, maybe not understanding all the financial ins and outs.
But now, with cheaper tech, AI, maybe artists have more control over visuals.
Could be. More accessible tools empower artists, potentially reducing costs and giving them more creative freedom.
All right, a quick philosophy detour. Reality versus consciousness. Are we experiencing reality, or does consciousness kind of create it?
Whoa, deep thoughts. Yeah, fundamental questions. The relationship between our subjective experience and whatever objective reality might be. Philosophers have chewed on that for ages.
And the Matrix idea, right? Being unplugged from a simulation. Makes your head spin.
Classic thought experiment. The brain in a vat really makes you question perception and what's fundamentally real.
Then, bang, back to fighters. How devastating a loss is. Like game over, but with potential brain damage. Brutal reality.
Yeah, for fighters, it's their identity, their livelihood. A loss hits hard, psychologically, financially, and the physical risks are always there. It's incredibly high stakes.
But there's the allure of glory, right? UFC, NFL, athletes pushing limits, accepting long-term risks for that moment.
That drive for peak performance, for recognition, it's powerful, leads people to make incredible sacrifices.
George St. Pierre gets mentioned as someone who navigated it well, got out relatively healthy, successful.
GSP is often seen as an outlier, yeah. Disciplined, smart career moves, focused on longevity in a sport that chews people up.
Because the more common story is physical decline, injuries piling up.
Exactly. The wear and tear is immense. It impacts performance during their career and quality of life afterwards for many fighters.
They mentioned Devin Haney changing his style after a loss, Ryan Garcia's defeat. Shows the mental impact. One loss can really shake things up.
Absolutely. Confidence is huge in combat sports. A major setback can force adjustments mentally and strategically.
And the Saudi money pouring into boxing. Could that change things? Make fighters less willing to risk it all if the guaranteed money is huge?
Interesting point. Big, secure paydays might change the risk-reward calculation. Maybe less desperation, more caution. Could shift the dynamics.
They talk about the limited RPMs of an athlete's career. That window is short.
Yeah, peak performance doesn't last forever. Age, injuries, planning for the long term is crucial.
There's a moment where they kind of reflect on not choosing a path like fighting. Seeing the consequences makes you appreciate safer choices.
Hindsight, right. Understanding the real toll makes you grateful for maybe a less physically destructive path.
And they touch on brain injuries maybe influencing risk-taking, shared stories of getting hit in the head.
It's speculative, but research does look into long-term effects of head trauma on behavior and personality. Complex area.
Then comedians. How that career path forces you to be entrepreneurial, self-reliant, no safety net.
Totally. It's not a typical 9 to 5. You have to create your own opportunities, manage your own career, builds resilience.
And just observing people over 25 years, how different lives turn out. Some thriving, some struggling. Life's unpredictable.
It really is. So many factors influence where people end up. Choices, luck, environment.
They mentioned how hard it is to come back to stand up after a long break. You lose the timing, the connection.
Yeah, comedy requires constant practice. Staying sharp, relevant. It's demanding. Taking years off makes it tough to jump back in.
Then free will versus determinism pops up again. Jelly Roll's transformation is seen as a strong case for free will.
Right, a powerful example of individual choice making a massive change. But they also acknowledge environment, lack of role models playing a part too. It's never simple.
And Segura's new TV show, The Uncertainty. He made the choice, but success isn't guaranteed. Risk is part of creating.
Exactly. Creative pursuits always involve unknowns. The value isn't just in the outcome, but the process, the leap of faith.
Okay, wow, that was a lot from Rogan and Segura. Now let's pivot completely to Vinya Yang and communication.
Right, a very different focus here. Zhang's core message seems to be communication confidence isn't fixed. It's a skill you can learn.
Which is super encouraging, isn't it? If you feel awkward or quiet, you can actually change that by adopting new behaviors.
Totally empowering. It means improvement is possible for anyone with the right approach and practice.
He mentions a siren technique. Sounds like a vocal exercise, maybe for pitch flexibility.
Likely, yeah. Exercises like that help you gain control over your voice, make it more expressive, practical tools.
And volume. Not just being loud, but using it strategically.
Yeah.
Louder, quieter, making sure you're heard and understood.
Yeah, it's about clarity, emphasis. Varying volume keeps people engaged, highlights what's important. It's dynamic.
Zhang acknowledges lots of people struggle with this stuff. Introversion, lack of confidence. It's common.
Very common. Communication anxiety is real. Knowing you're not alone is maybe the first step.
But he offers real hope. He was an awkward kid himself, he says, and learned these skills. Says anyone can change in like 3 to 6 months.
That's a tangible time frame. Shows significant improvement is possible relatively quickly if you put in the work. His own story is proof.
His process. Record and review. Simple, but powerful for self-awareness.
Absolutely foundational. You need to see and hear yourself to spot the habits you want to change, things you don't notice in the moment.
He suggests a high buff game for starting conversations. Sounds fun, low pressure.
Yeah, little icebreakers like that can build confidence for initiating contact without feeling like it has to be some deep, meaningful talk right away.
And gestures. Using your hands, your body language. It's not just words, it's physical presence, connection.
Hugely important. Nonverbals carry so much weight in how you're perceived, how you connect with people.
He talks about vocal image, how the sound of your voice shapes perceptions, turns assumptions into beliefs about you.
Right? It's the audio part of your personal brand. Does your voice match the image you want to project?
And we should spend as much time on our vocal image as our visual one. That's an interesting thought. We focus so much on appearance.
But our voice leaves a huge impression. Cultivating a strong, engaging voice can make a massive difference in how effective we are.
He breaks it down into 5 core foundations: melody, rhythm, volume, tonality, and pause.
Yeah, a solid framework. Melody is pitch variation, rhythm is speed, volume is loudness, tonality is emotion, and pause is, well, pausing.
Using piano music as an analogy for melody and speech makes sense. Varying pitch keeps it interesting, memorable, avoids monotone.
Exactly. Like a good tune, a voice with varied pitch holds attention, adds emphasis.
And his advice: don't be afraid to experiment, even if it feels exaggerated at first. Better to go too far and dial back than be too flat.
Good point. Fear of sounding weird holds people back, but often the bigger risk is sounding boring. Play with it.
Tonality, the emotion, linked to facial expressions. He demonstrates reading something emotional to show how feeling colors the voice.
Yeah, they're connected. Authentic emotion in your voice makes the message land, builds connection.
Rhythm or rate of speech, nerves make us speed up, right? So controlling pace helps convey calm, clarity.
Definitely. Rushing makes you hard to follow, sounds anxious. A deliberate pace feels more confident.
He gives numbers, like 150 words per minute average over 210 is too fast. Useful benchmarks.
Helps to have a rough guide, doesn't it?
Volume, the lifeblood of the voice. The energy that carries everything else.
Gotta have enough volume to be heard, obviously, but also to convey energy, conviction.
And using it strategically, like dropping to a whisper for impact. Powerful stuff.
Oh yeah, changes in volume really grab attention. Quiet can be just as impactful as loud, used right.
He notes low volume is often linked to shyness, whereas leaders tend to vary their volume more confidently.
It can be an indicator, yeah. Projecting your voice often reflects a willingness to be heard, a level of confidence.
Tonality, again, the emotion, tied to facial expressions, how we actually sound our feelings.
It's how the message is felt, huge part of interpretation.
And pause. Like in music, silence intensifies what came before it, gives listeners time to absorb.
So crucial. Pauses create drama, emphasis, allow processing. often overlooked but very powerful.
He stresses using all five together: melody, rhythm, volume, tonality, pause, creates that strong vocal image. It's the combination.
Right, they work synergistically. Mastering them individually and then blending them makes for really compelling communication.
And he reassures people, yes, you can change your voice. It takes deliberate practice, but it's possible.
That's key. It's not fixed. With conscious effort, you can shape how you sound.
Repetition makes new behaviors automatic, feel natural over time, like learning any skill.
Exactly. It feels weird at first, then it becomes second nature. Practice makes permanent.
So don't be too attached to how you sound now. Give your future self a chance to communicate better.
Great advice. Be open to evolving. Don't let current habits limit your potential.
Even simple changes help. More volume, more melody, bigger gestures, small tweaks, big impact.
Often, yeah. You don't need a total overhaul. Focusing on a few key things can make a noticeable difference.
He tells a story about Rachel overcoming shyness by practicing confident behaviors. Acting confident can build confidence.
The fake it till you make it idea, but really it's act as if. Adopting the behaviors can shift your internal state and how others see you.
He lists common challenges: impromptu speaking, introversion, connecting, small talk. Stuff everyone relates to.
Absolutely. Universal struggles. Good to know you're not alone in finding those things tricky.
Gamma conversations like improv. Recognizing that most chat is spontaneous back and forth.
Yeah, we improvise all the time without thinking about it. Framing it that way can make it less intimidating.
The top question he gets, can I change my voice? Shows how many people are self-conscious about it.
Deep-seated desire for improvement there. Lots of people feel their voice doesn't represent them well.
And that weird feeling hearing your own recording,
Yeah.
we all hate it. But it can motivate change.
Yeah, that disconnect is almost universal. But it's useful data if you want to improve.
Most people never consciously work on communication. So effective communication is usually intentional, not accidental.
Right. It doesn't just happen for most people. It requires focus and effort.
His record review process again, video with no sound, body language, audio with no video, voice, transcription, filler words, habits, very thorough.
Gives you multiple angles. What do you look like? What do you sound like? What patterns emerge in your words? Really breaks it down.
He even admitted overusing okay himself during online teaching. Shows everyone needs self-awareness.
Give an example. Even experts can develop verbal citrics without feedback. Continuous self-monitoring is key.
And seeking feedback from others too. Crucial for growth.
Absolutely. We often don't perceive ourselves accurately. Outside perspectives are invaluable.
He mentioned matching and mirroring vocal foundations to build rapport, especially with quieter people.
Subtle technique, yeah. Aligning your pace or volume can create a subconscious connection, help them feel more comfortable.
The Halo Buffalo game, using slightly weird greetings to spark connection. Playful.
Injecting a little unexpectedness can make interactions more memorable, break the ice in a fun way.
And the 40 acronym for conversation starters. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Gets beyond just, what do you do?
Good framework for finding common ground, showing genuine interest in different parts of someone's life, leads to better conversations.
Asking deeper questions like, what's your dream? Shows you really want to know the person.
Yeah, moves beyond surface level, signals real interest, can lead to much richer interactions.
He stressed cultural nuance too.
Yeah.
Communication styles differ, US versus Australia, UK, for example. Advice isn't one size fits all.
Super important point. What works in one culture might be ineffective or even rude in another. Gotta be aware.
He shared a personal story about a misstep with his accent in Asia. Shows how easy it is to get it wrong without sensitivity.
Humbling experiences like that are great teachers. Emphasizes the need for cultural awareness.
Contextual confidence. Feeling confident in specific situations, even if generally anxious. Use those areas as a starting point.
Good strategy. Leverage your strengths. Build from where you already feel capable. Confidence can spread from one context to another.
Communication skills are portable. Build confidence everywhere. Personal life, work. It helps across the board.
Fundamental life skill, really. Improves relationships, opportunities, everything.
He mentioned saving energy before the interview. Shows preparation matters for effective communication.
Yeah, managing your energy, being mentally ready, it impacts your performance, especially for demanding interactions.
And practice in the real world. Start with strangers. Low stakes.
Perfect way to try things out without pressure. Cashiers, baristas, neutral ears to test new techniques.
Set daily goals, KPIs for practicing specific behaviors, makes progress consistent.
Turns intention into action. Small, regular practice builds habits effectively.
And gradually introduce changes with people you know. Maybe even tell them what you're working on.
Good idea. Lets them understand, offer support or feedback, makes the transition smoother.
He touched on vulnerability, building deeper connections. Authenticity matters.
Big time. Being real, flaws and all, often fosters more trust and intimacy than trying to be perfect.
He even shared his own dream of being a chef. Shows we can all evolve, pursue different passions.
Nice touch. Reinforces the idea of growth, change, not being locked into one identity, and communication helps in any pursuit.
He acknowledged work can get repetitive, but communication skills, always relevant, always important.
Absolutely. No matter the job or situation, being able to connect and convey ideas effectively is crucial.
And the disadvantage for those who lack these skills?
Yeah.
His work helps level that playing field. It's transformative.
Truly. Good communication opens doors. Lack of it can really hold people back unfairly. Empowering people here is huge.
Then a final plug to subscribe, mention of his conversation cards. Useful tool.
Yeah, practical resources to help people put these ideas into practice.
So wrapping this all up, the big theme feels like intentionality, right?
Yeah, I think so. Whether it's Segura navigating his career shifts, understanding our bodies, or actively working on communication like Yang teaches, it's about conscious engagement.
We saw goals change, learned about physical limits and potentials, and got this deep dive into how much our voice matters.
And Zhang really hammers home that communication isn't fixed. It's a skill set. We can choose to improve it, practice it.
Which leads to that final thought for you, the listener. What's one small thing from Zhang's advice you could try this week? A little more melody, a strategic pause, bigger gestures maybe?
How might just one intentional shift like that actually open up something new for you?
Exactly. It's about taking these ideas off the page or out of the headphones and into your actual life. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive today.
Yeah, hope you found some useful nuggets in there.
Basically, this is your way to get really informed fast. We look at different sources, pull out the key stuff, all for you. Today, we're diving deep into improving your everyday English fluency, something lots of you are working on, right? We're using some really helpful YouTube content from the English Pod community as our guide.
Yeah, and for you, the learner, our goal here is simple. We want to give you practical tips, relatable stories from these videos, stuff you can actually use to speak more fluently, more confidently, day to day, without getting totally swamped with info.
Exactly. We've got two main videos we're looking at. One's called How to Speak English Fluently Every Day, Intermediate English Practice, Learn English with Podcast. And the other's Intermediate English Practice, Making Small Talk with New People, Learn English with Podcast. So we're going to pull out some key strategies for, boosting that fluency and getting more comfortable with small talk.
Okay, so let's start with the real core of it, something both videos really hit on. Practice, like consistent, real-world practice every day if you can.
Absolutely. It's not just about knowing words, is it? It's using them.
Right.
One video had this great little story about Sarah in a coffee shop. At first she said, "I want a coffee." And, well, it just sounded a bit blunt, maybe.
A little bit, yeah.
But then she switched it to, "Could I have a coffee, please?"
Yeah.
And boom, it sounded way more natural, more polite.
And it's such a small change, but it highlights something important. Using phrases like, "could I have," or "I would like," instead of just "I want," it's not just about politeness.
No?
Well, it is polite, but it also shows you understand the sort of social side of the language, how things are actually said. And that little change, it probably boosted her confidence, too.
Makes sense. The video also mentioned Mark, a native speaker, actually.
Yeah.
And he actively practices, too, with colleagues, neighbors, when he's out shopping.
That's a great point. Even native speakers fine-tune things. So for learners, applying what you know in those everyday spots, that's absolutely crucial. It makes it stick.
So how can you actually do that?
Yeah.
The videos had some really practical ideas.
Yeah.
Like when you're shopping.
Right. Don't just point.
Yeah. Try saying, "How much does this cost?" Or, "Where can I find the milk?"
And there was that quick example, too, about overhearing someone in the supermarket saying the tomatoes were in aisle 3 next to the cucumbers.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a simple, everyday thing, but that is everyday English. Listening to that, paying attention.
And then trying to use similar phrases yourself later.
Exactly. It's about tuning your ear. The videos stressed listening to native speakers, their word choices, how they ask questions, even casual stuff like how they answer, "What's up?"
Like saying, "Not much," or just relaxing.
Yeah, precisely. It's those little things that make you sound more, natural. It helps you catch the rhythm of the language.
It's also about noticing how English speakers often use pretty simple sentences for daily stuff. I went to the gym. I had lunch with a friend.
Totally. They're not usually super complicated descriptions.
So practicing those basic sentences about your own day, that builds a really solid foundation. And importantly, the video reminded us making mistakes. Totally okay. Expected, even.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of learning anything. The speaker mentioned her husband, how he improved just by keeping at it, mistakes and all.
Which is really encouraging. But, okay, getting that practice can be tough.
Yep.
One suggestion from the sources was finding a language partner.
Yes, that's a big one. Doesn't have to be formal tutoring, just someone to chat with in English regularly. A friend, a colleague, maybe someone online.
Just consistent conversation, even short bursts.
Right. Low pressure, good for trying things out.
And even if you're on your own, there are ways. The video suggested talking yourself through your morning routine. Out loud.
Like, okay, I'm waking up now at 6:30, I'm going to brush my teeth.
Yeah. It sounds a bit weird maybe, but there was that story about Emily, the nurse. She did that while getting ready, talked to herself in English.
And it helps you start thinking in English, doesn't it? Instead of translating everything in your head.
Definitely. The videos also said to try describing your afternoon. I go to work. I'm eating lunch now. I need to study English later.
Just saying simple sentences out loud, it really reinforces things.
We also heard about James. He made a real effort at work, writing emails in English.
Using simpler English with colleagues.
And even just 5 minutes of English chat with his wife every day.
Yeah.
Little things adding up.
That's the key, consistency. Another idea was describing your surroundings. Like, look around your kitchen.
Okay, here's the table. The fridge is over there. This is where I cook.
There was that example of Daniel, who apparently described his house in English for 2 minutes every morning. Made it a habit.
It's like creating your own little immersion bubble, isn't it?
Exactly. Even if you're not in an English-speaking country, you're actively using the language with your environment. They also suggested role-playing simple things, like pretending someone's visiting.
Hi, welcome. Please sit down. Would you like some water?
Simple scenarios.
Wow.
Or even trying short chats in English with family.
Yeah. And I like the story about Thomas. He was shy, but he pushed himself to talk about his job in English every day.
And that built his confidence over time. It shows that pushing through that initial discomfort really pays off.
So, maybe a little task for you listening. After this, just try speaking English for 1 minute. About anything simple, see how it feels.
Okay, so that's daily practice. But how do you take it deeper? Really weave English into the fabric of your day? The videos had some thoughts on that too.
Yeah, moving beyond just dedicated practice time, like describing what's happening around you as it happens.
Right, if you're out for a walk.
Say what you see. The sun's shining today. Lots of people in the park. That dog's running fast.
There was that story about Steve, remember? He felt awkward describing his apartment at first.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
But he stuck with it. And eventually it just flowed, became natural.
And that's because it forces you to think on your feet, right? Find the words, make these sentences, connect language to what you're actually seeing or doing.
You don't need a perfect moment. Just talk about what you're doing. Cooking dinner.
Okay, boiling the water, now adding the pasta. Need to stir this. Turns a chore into practice.
It's like narrating your life in English. The videos also mentioned describing objects or even future plans. Simple stuff. This is my favorite mug. Tomorrow I think I'll go to the market.
And remember Julia, the English teacher, she recorded herself talking about random things.
That's a brave thing to do, listening back to yourself.
But apparently it really helped her pinpoint where she needed to improve and track progress.
Self-reflection. It's powerful. Another idea was pretending to teach something in English, like a recipe.
Oh yeah, that forces you to be clear, step by step. Good practice.
And setting small goals helps too, like deciding, okay, this week I'll practice talking about my hobbies in English.
I really enjoy reading.
Yeah.
My favorite author is Little Bits Build Up. And listening, of course. Huge part of it. The speaker's husband, Peter.
Right, listening to podcasts daily.
And he started just naturally picking up phrases like, could you please pass the salt?
Because he was hearing them used authentically, over and over. That consistent input is gold. You absorb the rhythm, the intonation, not just the words.
The video suggested listening to simple conversations and even repeating what you hear, mimicking.
Yeah, shadowing. It can really help with the pronunciation and flow.
And using English out in the world. When you're shopping, running errands, ask for help.
Excuse me, how much is this? Do you have this in a different size?
Might feel a bit scary at first.
Mm-hmm.
But each time is practice, real-world practice. The videos kept saying, it's about consistency, not perfection. Real conversations are key.
Absolutely. Progress over perfection. More examples came up. Robert planning his day out loud in English.
Sarah talking through making coffee. Daniel recording voice notes about his day.
Small integrations, big results over time.
Even when you're just walking or running, describe your surroundings. Or before grocery shopping.
Make the list in English. Practice saying the items.
Exactly. And Emma from Australia, she just had short chats with herself daily. Hi, it's Emma. How are you today? Simple self-talk.
Builds confidence. Keeps the language active in your mind. They also suggested practicing while driving. Pretend you're talking to someone.
Or at work. Or while studying. Say
Working.
things out loud. Practice explaining concepts.
The core idea seems to be pick one simple daily activity and describe it in English. Make it a habit.
Yeah, keeps it manageable. Fluency is built bit by bit, right?
Little by little, constant practice, like James, the teacher, describing his commute.
Or Claire, the software developer, talking about her work in English to remember tech terms.
So talking about daily tasks, professional goals, it all helps. Emily, the nurse, rehearsing what she needed to say to patients.
And journaling. Even a few sentences a day in English. Daniel, the student, found it helped his writing and speaking.
Because it gives you space to think, maybe look up words without pressure, and reading those entries aloud bridges writing and speaking.
So bottom line, just keep describing things around you. As you walk through your house when you're outside, keep the English flowing.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. A really crucial skill tied into fluency and confidence, especially in new situations, making small talk.
Ah, yes, small talk, that thing that can feel so awkward sometimes.
It can, can't it? But the second video really focused on this, arguing that knowing how to just start a simple chat is huge for your English skills, both speaking and listening.
Makes sense. If you can break the ice, you get more practice. The video asked, think about when you meet someone new. What do you usually say?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
Then give a really simple example at a party. Hi, I'm Natasha. How you doing today?
Straightforward, friendly, open. It works because it's simple and direct. You don't need some amazing opening line.
Right. Another one was David at a coffee shop asking someone about their book. Hi, is that book any good?
Again, using the shared environment. Casual, low pressure. Keeping it simple is key, especially if you're nervous.
Like meeting a new colleague. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. I'm Natasha. How long have you been working here? Easy, relevant.
And small talk is often about finding that common ground, isn't it? The video mentioned common topics, weather, hobbies, weekend plans, simple stuff.
Like meeting Tom at a barbecue. So Tom, how do you know Sarah connects through a shared person? Makes it feel less random.
And remember, the goal isn't usually a super deep conversation. It's about being friendly, showing a bit of interest, keeping it light.
Yeah, asking, do you have any plans for the weekend? Fits that perfectly. Non-intrusive, opens the door. The video suggested trying something like, hi, my name's Natasha. Are you from around here? At a cafe?
Just putting yourself out there a little, but it needs to feel genuine, right? Authenticity matters.
Definitely. The speaker shared her own example at a networking event with Jack. Hey, Jack, so what brought you here today? It fits the context.
And listening is just as important as talking in small talk. You ask a question.
Then you actually listen to the answer. It lets you ask follow-up questions, keep it going.
And if you can relate to what they say, even better. They mention cooking, ask about their favorite dish, shows you're engaged.
The video had an example for a waiting room. I hope we don't have to wait too long. Are you here for a checkup or something else? Shared experience breaks the silence.
Or mentioning something current but casual, like a new restaurant opening up.
It's all about connecting in a simple, friendly way, not trying to impress. At a wedding, meeting Maria. Hi, Maria. How do you know the bride and groom? Natural question for the setting.
And keep the conversation flowing. If someone asks about your job, give a bit more than one word. Maybe mention your hobbies if it feels right.
Meeting a new neighbor. Alex. How long have you lived in the neighborhood, Alex? Welcoming, easy.
Even tiny interactions count. Someone drops something at the store. Help them pick it up. Here you go. Long lines today, huh? Friendly, quick connection.
Small talk happens at work, too. New job? Meet Lisa. Hi, Lisa. I'm new here. How long have you worked at this company? Polite intro.
The speaker mentioned being at a community meeting, asking Mark, hi, have you been to one of these meetings before? Simple questions work best.
See someone with a cute dog? That's a cute dog. What's their name? People love talking about pets.
And if you are shy, the video had a good pip. Maybe prep a couple of easy questions beforehand. About work, where they live, recent fun activities.
Just having a backup plan can ease the nerves. Like meeting your spouse's friend, Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Nice to meet you. Partner's name talks about you often. How do you two know each other?
Polite shows connection. And remember, even really short chats are good practice for speaking and listening.
Like meeting your cousin's wife, Anna, at dinner. Hi, Anna. Lovely to meet you. How was your trip here? Nice and easy.
You can also just comment on your surroundings, waiting for a bus, at the dentist. The speaker asked Paul at the community center, "Have you been to this class before?"
It all helps you feel more comfortable, connect a bit, and builds that speaking confidence.
And sometimes, like the example with Clara at the doctor's office with her daughter.
She's adorable. How old is she?
Yeah. Sometimes just a simple, kind comment is the perfect way to start a brief, pleasant interaction.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive into the English Pod community sources.
The main takeaways seem to be practice consistently, every day if possible.
Right. And consciously integrate English into your daily life. Narrate your actions. Describe your surroundings.
And don't shy away from small talk. Use those opportunities to practice speaking and listening in real situations.
Absolutely. And remember, fluency isn't some finish line you cross. It's a journey. Keep practicing. Be kind to yourself.
And notice your progress. That's important too.
Yeah.
So maybe a final thought for you to consider. What's just one small way you could add a bit more English practice into your routine starting today? And maybe pay attention to those small talk moments. See how they can open doors to connection and learning you didn't expect.
Great thought. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this deep dive.